Hello everyone, this is Mark at GiraffePad again, and today I have the very fortunate opportunity to spend a bit of time with Colin Tomlinson of 150 CLD. How are you doing, Colin?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I am very good, thank you, very good on this unbelievably hot sunny day. If anyone listens to this in the winter, they'll wonder what we're talking about, but
Yes.
it's over 30 degrees, isn't it? So if we look like we're sweating somewhat, that's the reason. So Colin, looking at our the time that I've got to know you through communities like Trainer Talk and your use of GiraffePad, I believe you've been on GiraffePad now for about 15 or 16 months. And so as a result of that and a result of Trainer Talk, we've had plenty of conversations, but I'm very curious to discover a bit more about the work you do, the training work you do specifically, the sort of niche that you're in, and get a bit more detail on that would be great to understand.
Brilliant. Yeah. My preferred sector is the construction and civil engineering world. I'm an engineer by background. I was in the army for quite a while. And when I came out, I went into civil engineering, and that's why I fell into that niche. I deliver project management, works management, behavioural safety, and other courses, which is all around trying to get the industry to look after its people in a better way. It can be very task orientated, lots of tight deadlines, can be quite adversarial because of the contracts they're operating under. So that puts pressure onto people. And what we're hoping to do, people I work with, is to try and help them develop behaviours to try and alleviate that pressure, to allow everybody to work in a better way to get on and achieve the task successfully.
Fantastic. So, I mean, you say you've obviously got that civil engineering background, and also whilst you're in the army as well. What about the training side of it? When did you actually move into a sort of training role within that sector?
It started, I guess, when I left the army. Bizarrely, I've been involved. Obviously, we train a lot in the army, but I wasn't an instructor, and I wasn't too involved in the delivery of training or facilitating. I was very much into the planning of how do we do exercises and then running those exercises. So when I left the military and came into my first job, they asked me to have a look at the company's leadership program, just because they equated army officer leadership and therefore go and have a look. So I went and had a look and slowly started to get into it. And I think, if I remember correctly, one of the sessions needed somebody to stand in because the original facilitator wasn't coming. And I thought, well, I'll give it a go and see what it's like. I'd also actually done an OU MBA, and one of those modules was about creativity, innovation and change. And one of the modules, one of the dissertation bits in there, meant you had to facilitate a session. So that started, I thought, at the end of that, actually that wasn't as bad as I thought it could be. And it started to look at the light switch. And I ended up taking over the leadership program and developing it into something a little bit different. And then I was asked to look at another course to try and help their project managers, which I did. And then we ended up delivering that. And then it's just slowly building to doing more and more courses into doing that. Yeah, and it's evolved into what it is today.
And so where was the point or the decision you made to actually set up on your own and set up your own business in terms of delivering that?
As I moved more in the corporate world into training, and I was helping out on some tender work as well for the big projects. And one of the projects that we won was HS2, and there had to be a decision in Birmingham. I'd already done a number of years in the company away in Nottingham, and the commute was quite a long way. So I had to make a real decision. Actually, I would have loved to go and do the job, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity. But I wasn't too enamored about going from Worthing to Birmingham every week while they were trying to sort out the prices. So there became a decision, and we had to have a conversation with the company about what was the best way of doing this. And they were brilliant about it. And I still do work for them now, and actually do more work for them now. And it's been, yeah, so really quite a smooth transition. It took away a lot of the risk a lot of freelancers have to think of where do they find that first client from.
Yeah.
And I was able to then back that up and use the network to get better at it.
Fantastic. And I'm guessing up until recently, was all of your work, or certainly the majority of the work, would have been face-to-face, like on-site or in groups at offices working through stuff? what's been the impact of the last few months on you and your business? What have you had to do to adapt there?
Well, I think what this period has done has accelerated the process of what I believe is a blended approach. That everybody has obviously knee-jerk straight into doing online and Zoom calling, and I think there is a place to do that, and I think that's great that that's been shown to be quite effective in what it can do. But I think if we were to be truly honest, the one-to-one, it doesn't give you that feeling you get as you walk around the classroom with individual groups where you can confirm, have a quiet word with somebody, and that side of life. So there is I think there's a medium, a way of not just the Zoom in bit or the Teams bit, and not doing 6 days in the classroom. There is some way of doing that, and I think that's where I'm looking at. Using things like there's an approach in teaching called flipping the classroom, where you get you set work for the delegates, for the school kid, wherever it might be, and they do the work before the lesson. And so in the lesson, you say, okay, what was the work? And some clever people have done this online, so you can do it. You can see where people are struggling with the work, and you can see where people are doing really good in the work. So in the classroom, when you get them in, you concentrate on the bits which have not gone quite so well. And I think this is an opportunity for us to be able to use that. So again, and this is where I think one of the beauties of GiraffePad, this will help really well, is you try and get, we struggle sometimes to get the engagement pre-course, but actually if you say this is actually a pretty essential part of the course now. We're not going to cover everything when we're face-to-face or online. We're going to cover the areas that you felt were struggling. And it also then, because they're at work potentially doing this, I think it will allow them to get more context of what we're trying to teach them on their projects.
Absolutely. And I like that idea because as all of us involved in the sector will say, the learning is always in the doing. So if they've done the work beforehand, the learning that can then happen as a group, whether that be online, be that face-to-face, is about getting through the tough bits, the challenge bit, the bit that didn't stick, or reinforcing the bits that they feel they've gathered from that anyway. And
I think that's right. And then you can get them to coach each other through. And if we're really into this world of learning where we learn from each other and we continuously learn the growth mindset type stuff that comes through, then that's how they'll do it. And then eventually, because we've shown them, they've then got a network of people on the course who they can ring up and say, can you explain that to me again? I didn't quite understand that. So there's some real benefits for doing that. So that's what this 3-month period has changed my thinking a little bit to how to do that.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And I think one of the things that at the beginning of this period, when I was talking to lots of trainers and we were talking about how this was going to work, one of the first things that came out was we've got to strip content out of the virtual sessions. You can't sit on a virtual session all day, or you can, but it's painful. So you strip the content out to beforehand. And like you said, actually, that doesn't need to be any different with face-to-face stuff. Strip out some content to beforehand, work on that individually, and then bring your learning to the group session, be that online or virtual. Fantastic.
And it may be actually, you don't even need to get them to do any learning. It might be just, okay, we are on this session, we are going to talk about design. Go and find out how you manage design on your project. And then all of them, if you get to 10 or how many delegates on the line, we just go through, okay, they do this, so let's cherry pick. If we were to say this is the best approach to it, what are the things? And you can do that. But
yeah. Sounds perfect. So, I mean, you mentioned you find GiraffePad helps with that. It'd be interesting to know, so you work in a particular sector, you've got a very sort of niche background in that area. How does GiraffePad work for you and your learners and the type of work that you do?
One of the courses we do is in 2 modules, and it has a 3-week gap in between where, again, we send them off to go and do some homework. So one of the great things about GiraffePad is, one, you can establish the contact beforehand, and as trainers we always struggle with people coming on the first morning and not knowing anything about the course or what it's all about. But what GiraffePad does allows you to get in and start asking questions. And so I have a rolling brief, starts a couple of weeks before the course, and then just slowly gets more and more just to remind them, and they get the notifications in their inbox that they need to go and have a look at what's going on. Yeah. So and that has actually worked. So before we used to have quite a key document, and we'd asked people on day one, have you seen this? And nobody would do it. The last couple of times we've done it, they've actually said, yeah, I've found it now, and I've had a look, and this is, so you can see it's there. I'm not brilliant at doing this, but you can see the engagement levels are going up there as they get used to using the format, and away it goes. It's really good because in this course in particular, where it's a real benefit is to upload the drawings that they do pretty quickly afterwards, so they've got that record.
Yeah.
And to continue the engagement between the modules as well. Build post. Anybody got any problems with this? What do you think of this? So that can help. And again, it's just that central repository of all the documentations. That the clone fixture, because it's repeated quite a lot. The ability to copy one event or one program and not have to recreate it from scratch, I think is, there's those little bits of time saving. And when you have all the documentation to support your learning in one place, it's just easy to go down and click the resources you want to go into that bit. And that might change over a period of time. So the bit of flexibility there is really cool.
Yeah, that's good to hear. In terms of your learners, you talk about this rolling brief that you set up. How engaged do you find your learners? How do they find using GiraffePad? Do they give you any feedback on it afterwards or during the sessions? Or
I find there's a mixture, actually. You can tell almost from when you set it up about how quickly people join it. And I'm finding more people are now starting to put their personal objectives into it, so you can see what's going on and try and tailor a little bit what's going into it. That's an area I think I need to get better at trying to get people to do, and I think then that will really allow us to enhance how we deliver our courses.
And it's interesting. I mean, that's we've always wanted the learner at the heart of GiraffePad, and there's certainly we've got ideas sort of bubbling away about how we can make that even more compelling for the learner to really engage early on, because I think you and I would agree, the more engaged they are when they arrive at your actual session, the more straightforward and easy that learning process is, isn't it? If they've done that work and they've thought about it and they know what they're going to do with you, or what prep they've had to do, it makes the session easy, doesn't it?
It's quite demoralising in that first half an hour, and you say, okay, what do people know about the course? And you heard any thoughts about what you're going to do on the course? What do you want to get out of the course? And they sit there, mute. Right, okay. Oh, right, let's start again. So this course is about blah, blah, and then, all right. So you've got to really work hard. And that first hour of getting the rapport and the trust going, where if you've done this work a little bit beforehand, you're a little bit further along the trust sort of equation or timeline, wherever you want to use it. And you can start doing things a bit better.
Definitely. So if I had to put you on the spot, Colin, and say, I mean, you've mentioned cloning. I mean, I'm interested if that might be the one, but if you had to pick out the sort of single most important feature of GiraffePad that really makes your life easier or works for the way that you work, what would you pick out?
So I think cloning is quite cool. I do like the fact that you can have all your resources that you want, and basically what it does, it keeps all of the resources you put in for every course or every program you do. So as you amend or change or develop the course, all the stuff is all in there. So even if you didn't identify that one particular document is required for a program, if it gets mentioned, then you can quickly then just go into that pile repository and then put it in. I think that's a cracking feature. You're not looking around for it, you know it's there, and away you go. So I think that's really cool. How you've interacted, got it into being interactive with Zoom, I think is a cracking way, is a cracking innovation. And I think that's proven its worth over the last couple of months.
And so if you were then to look the other way and say, think about the way you work, the way you manage your sessions, the way you engage your learners, is there something that it doesn't do at the moment that you'd really like it to do?
I think how people get the notifications of messages or events. So yes, an email to invite you to the event, that's great. But sometimes, some apps, when you look at it on your phone or on your tablet, it has that red 1 or 2 or 3 or something. Just immediately you know that there's something going on there. And I think that will enhance, because people are used to looking at their phones.
Yeah.
notifications come through on an email at the moment, they're not necessarily going to see that. But if it's there read large, then they might get into the habit of doing that. People seem to be more engaging with their phones and answering stuff. And we've got to maybe get away from that. So that I think would really enhance how we do it.
Definitely, and I totally agree with that. We are so, I mean, our phones are so capable these days. We can do pretty much anything on them, and so we get used to using them, don't we? It's certainly on the roadmap, and it's certainly in our plans. And there's stage development towards that. So I hope you will see some advance towards that fairly soon. Fantastic. I've got one last question for you, Colin, because I always find there's an interesting story around business names, and your business name is 150CLD. So come on, enlighten me. What's the story behind 150CLD?
Well, we talked about when I had to make the decision to jump out of the corporate into the freelance world, and I quite naively thought, I suppose, it'd be quite easy to get a bank account and everything else like that. But of course, you need a company name, and I really hadn't thought that much about it. So I was racking my brains of what is this company name, and I didn't want it to be naff, and I didn't want to be thinking about things that I regret. So I just thought about it very briefly. I came up with, so 150 is the last three of my army number. Most ex-military people will always, that army number is ingrained in you. So 150 was easy. And the CLD, I think in my head originally, I thought it was like coaching, learning, development, but it could mean construction, learning, development. It could mean Colin's learning, development. So there's a bit of flexibility. It's open to interpretation. So rather, I'm starting to use more and more drawings and graphics and stuff like that, because I think what it does, it opens up. People have different interpretations of everything that's going on, and the drawing helps that to do. And sometimes that just surfaces assumptions or thinking. So it can mean whatever it wants to mean to you.
Well, I love the variations you get, and it's great to hear where the 150 comes from as well, and that makes a huge amount of sense. I'm loving the drawings behind you as well, Colin. Obviously, there's a very creative slant to your flip charts that you use in your sessions as well there.
Well, it's better than having a blank flip chart or a PowerPoint or paying for a Zoom background or something. I can't afford a green screen, so I thought I'd draw something appropriate.
This is my shed, really. It's not really a green screen. Listen, Colin, it's wonderful to speak to you as always, and really, really grateful that you are one of our customers and have used it so prolifically over the last year or so, and hopefully you'll stick with us for the next few years, and we'll continue to learn more about you. Mark,
it's my pleasure. I think you have a great product, and I find it really easy to use and intuitive, and it has contributed greatly to how I deliver what I deliver. So my pleasure.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Colin. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Bye then.
Bye-bye.